Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Running Real Estate Podcast, and we've got a great guest, somebody I'm excited about, somebody who I've been wanting to get on here for quite some time, somebody who is a great spokesman for not just Ocean City, but all of Worcester County, and if you go beyond that, probably like the whole surfing community.
I've tried.
Yeah. So today we've got Bryant Stoehr, who is the owner of the
Wave Riding School in Ocean City, surf school in Ocean City that runs through Cape Coast Surf Shop.
Yeah, so is that 35th Street?
Right at 35th Street. We do lessons and camps and do them every day of the week through the season.
Yeah. I mean, you guys are like, so many people that I talk to in the real estate world, whether it's actually like employees and agents of mine and their kids, or clients of mine, have had their kids or themselves go through your school.
Yeah, I get a kick out of like how many friends, like local friends, business owners, people from this area, out of towners that we've taught to surf. Like it's I had a cool career in the surfing industry beforehand, but it feels a little bit like my calling to be doing this now, and looking back, like all the kids that I've got some kind of hand in helping them, get into the sport,
right,
has been pretty cool. Yeah, I enjoy it.
Yeah, you've just touched so many people, and it's really fascinating for me to see the evolution of the sport a little bit.
Yeah, incredible.
And how like mainstream it's become, and how popular it's become, and how accessible you make it for so many people.
Yeah. There's a few things that you can do with the sport that I think make it easy. 4 or 5 things that everyone does wrong that with a surf lesson, we can make pretty easy. Like friends of mine ask me, I think you've reached out a couple of times. I've got friends that have asked like, hey, advice on board size or little things. And there's my advice to everyone is like, try it once. Like the one time can shave years of trial and error off of doing something like this. And at the end of the day, it just makes it more fun.
Right.
Easier, more fun. And it's cool to see everyone enjoying it out in the water. So
yeah, I mean, we spend a lot of time on 37th Street, very close to where you are, and I go out there in the mornings, and it's just like an army that comes out.
Yeah. It sometimes looks bigger than it is, mainly because we do it one-on-one, meaning if I have a bunch of people in the water, I've got a bunch of instructors, right? So I think with this sport, having an instructor with each person in the water is, that makes all the difference in the world. So if I've got 10 people in the water, there's 10 of us, sometimes more, on the beach helping out. I've with everything I've done in my life, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it the right way, which hopefully, looking back, are the things that you're aware of that I've done. I've always tried to do that. Like if I'm going to put my name on it or have anything to do with it, I'm going to make sure I do it the right way.
Yeah. So let's go there. I don't know if I properly introduced Brian, but maybe give us a little bit of history as to who you are and how this kind of came about.
So I grew up, or I went to high school in Stephen Decatur. So I'm from this area, or moved here when I was 13 years old.
Right.
And I bodyboarded for a living, which is what I did for it was like my dream when I was a little kid, and I was able to turn that into reality. Kind of cool. And then a lot of the things that I've done have kind of stemmed from that. I've worked with a number of different companies, throughout the world that make different products. I've had products with my name on it over the years, bodyboards and fins and glasses and clothes and all that good stuff. I work with Catch Surf, which makes like the Odyssey, all the Odyssey logs that you see like all over the place, the beater boards, the same company. So that's the company that I work with now, and there's been 10 other things throughout the career that all stem from riding waves and getting to make what I did when I was a little kid a reality, and I'm still kind of milking it
right
now as getting older. Now I'm able to, kind of neat because I'm able to pass it on to to kids that are getting into the sport. So and like I said, it's kind of been kind of interesting. I always wanted to surf ride waves for a living. That's what I wanted to be better than anyone at, and I almost feel like the calling has been teaching it. It's almost been cooler to be able to do that than not to discount what I did. I mean, that was my dream. So that's what I'm pretty fulfilled in I got to do all that stuff. So,
right.
Yeah.
You're giving back. I mean, truly.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's fun and like, good life lesson, right? Like when that's the goal, so many good things. I hear so many good things about the school, which is really cool. And I'm really trying to do it the right way by everyone involved, even the guys that help me, the people that are taking lessons, the town, everyone that's, supported it. So yeah. Thus you calling and asking me to do this or asking advice or friends that have kids that are trying, I've got a lot of friends that surf really well, that send their kids out with me, which is, pretty cool. I get a kick out of that. They trust me to help them out a little bit with that. Most things in life, maybe I'm not the one to ask advice on. I always joke like this one little thing I feel comfortable giving advice on.
Right. Right. Well, that to be able to give advice, you had to learn the craft, and excel at the craft to then be able to teach it. And I mean, you mentioned that you got to be, do this as a living, but I mean, maybe get into that a little bit more. I mean, you were a pro bodyboarder and world champion.
I've won 2 U.S. titles in my career. So I did it for a living, like as a paid professional wave rider for 15, 16 years, something like that. Depending on how you define it, I'm still doing it. But rode for BZ bodyboards for 14 some odd years, which is like the largest bodyboard company in the industry. And I did the world tour. I did the US tour for, 16 some odd years, had probably more success at the end of my career accidentally. Was more interested in having fun with it, less stress, did better competitively. Go figure. Good life lesson.
So I was trying to think back when we first met. When you and I first met was in the real estate world, kind of back when I was first getting in the business and first gotten my license, like 2003, maybe 2004 ish.
Yeah.
And were you doing like pro bodyboarding for a while and then you went back?
No. So I did it I did it from when I was a professional bodyboarder from 16 on, and through the career I was interested in other things, right? So I would learn about other things. I've had my real estate license since I think I got a real estate license when you got yours.
Okay.
But I did it more to learn a little bit, like educate myself. And I've educated myself enough to know to call someone better than me at doing it. So people ask me all the time if I, real estate wise, and I tell them all the time, I'll reach out to one of my friends that knows way more about it than me. When I've sold my houses, I've called, you.
Right. And I totally appreciate that. Just like we were talking about getting my daughter out there on surf lessons the other day.
I'm comfortable there. Like that's the thing to come to me for. And, I've learned in life to use people that are good at what they do. So that's what I'm doing for what that's worth.
Right. The other thing that I totally admire about you in looking from the outside in towards you and your career is you've reinvented yourself a number of times.
Yeah, I've been willing to change. I'll tell you, I've gotten to a point where I'm doing what I want and I'm enjoying myself. So I don't know that I've just whatever I've been enjoying is what I've gotten into, like these soft top boards that everyone's riding now. Like I that was fun at the time. It gave me made it so that I wasn't bored with what I was doing, and go figure that got incredibly popular. But I've been willing to change as the times change, and it's worked out okay. Yeah.
Right. So you really kind of carved your niche a little bit on the bodyboard prone, and now it's like you're stand up all the time. I don't.
It's riding waves. Like I started surfing first, then I started bodyboarding. I started bodyboarding because you can't surf, from 10 o'clock and I was too young to drive to the surf beach, so I'd ride a bodyboard. I worked like a beach stand when I was a little kid, so I'd go bodyboard while I was at work all day. Is kind of I just spent all day in the water, and I learned the water, and I feel comfortable that I could if we threw this table in the water, I could
surf it.
Right. So I'm more comfortable in the water. I'll fall walking back across the street to Caicos to, that's when I'll fall down more so than in the water. I'm more comfortable in the water. So, and the bodyboard is a great tool. It's a great tool to learn the ocean. Like, a lot of people get into surfing and they say, like, well, what should I do next? And especially with younger kids that are too small to carry like an 8-foot, board to the beach or whatever, get them a bodyboard. Like, normally it's a stepping stone to surfing. It's something that they can do on their own. Mm-hmm. And teaching someone to surf is super easy. Understanding the ocean is what takes a lifetime. Like, I'm still figuring that out, but I'm willing to, and I'm okay. It's one of those sports that you just never master. Mm-hmm. You listen to like interviews with pro surfers, they always talk about like it's always fresh because it's always changing, or you talked about like being willing to change. Maybe that comes a little from spending so much time in the water and like having to adapt. I've got a lot of, we take a lot of kids surfing. We take a lot of adults surfing, and we've done a lot of like corporate events and like team building things, but it's pretty interesting to hear the similarities in surf and the analogies that people use in surf that they like translate into business, being willing to like, having to do it. If you don't have a choice, like you got to adjust, for whatever the wave's doing. Like, you don't do that in real estate or like some other business, kind of dead in the water also,
Right.
It's kind of interesting to see. And I've got a lot of clients in, real estate finance. Like, I'm fascinated to hear their, analogies, between the two. I'm trying to figure out how to play golf, and there's a lot of similarities there too. And, so yeah, I'm enjoying it. I will tell you, I think I'm enjoying it equally as much now as I did when I was 6 years old.
Really?
Yeah. Which is kind of cool. Maybe it's because I keep changing, like, rode a bodyboard I still bodyboard plenty, but I'm definitely riding some different boards, just playing around on different things. Over the years, we introduced jet skis into it. I became friends with a bunch of skimboard guys, and they've got winches, like a go-kart motor that they hook a string to and whip you down the beach. And, bodyboarders didn't really do that. Surfers didn't really do it. Like, became friends with some skimboarders, but it all just made it like new and fresh and exciting. And I learned like what I learned from skimboarders, helped my bodyboarding a ton. What I learned, like looking at it that way, I think is kind of helped me. So I'm trying to look at everything like that, whether right or wrong. So
yeah. And the conditions too. Like, we were talking the other day, and I remember you mentioned that like it was probably not the most ideal conditions for a lot of people to go learn how to surf, but then you just are so good at dialing it in when the perfect time is at the right tide with the right wind to get out there and have a successful surf lesson. Yeah.
If we time it right, at the right tide, like, we just have to adapt, right, to whatever the conditions are doing. And obviously there's a lot of people that come down for the weekend. There's a lot of people from the other side of the bridge that they've got a limited amount of time to surf, and if we can time the right tide, we can make it work pretty well. Another reason that the one-on-one works so well with what we do, because then you've got an instructor like next to you to help with whatever, we've just got to adjust. Right. It makes it so that we can do it more often. But in those, people ask me all the time how you get good at something like this from Ocean City, or really similar question anywhere on the East Coast where your waves aren't quite as like, as good as West Coast or Hawaii or different places. And I swear, I think I got good at doing this because I'd go surfing on those terrible days. Right. So it taught me more about the ocean, and then it made good days kind of easy.
Right.
So yeah, those bad days, maybe not as fun, kind of fun no matter what, in all honesty, but you probably learn more on those days. So, obviously real bad days, we'll go play miniature golf or something, but there's tons of other things to do in Ocean City on those days. So, but fun no matter what. Yeah.
So, coming from outside the area, right? Like a lot of my clients, our clients, they're not necessarily from here. They're come here, but they came to Ocean City and they absolutely fell in love with the idea, right?
Yeah.
The beach, being out on the beach every day, whether it be bodyboarding or just sitting in the sun, or maybe they don't even like to go to the beach, but they like the bayside activities.
Yeah.
There's so much here, but I know myself coming from, I grew up in Central PA, but would come down here and and I would bodyboard. And we've said this on other, I think I was talking to Finn, who, one of the guys who works for you, coming from outside the area, we watch movies like North Shore and we kind of romanticize this idea of being a surfer and being at the beach. But I know coming from outside the area into the industry, when I first started surfing, it was definitely intimidating. At first. And back then, I mean, I didn't really have direction as to what to do. To learn how to surf. And I think also looking back a little bit, I kind of felt like maybe I was above getting a surf lesson. Like I should just go do it myself. But the barrier to entry is so much easier if they come to like the surf school.
That's where a lot of people that ask me that, like, do it once, right? Like shaving years off of it makes a big difference. There's definitely a lot of unknowns. I have a lot of we do a lot of intermediate and advanced lessons. We do a lot of advanced coaching sessions for a lot of competitive, surfers that do, the ESA contest in the area. But it's, it makes it that much easier. There's like there's 3 or 4 things, 5 things that everyone does wrong, and people spend years doing those that we can, fix from that perspective. There's definitely, we take a lot of kids surfing. And then I've got a lot of clients like 40, 50, 60, 70 plus that do this. And there's like a gap in the middle where you're too cool to ask for help. And I was probably there also. And, my advice, the more time you spend in the water with or without me, awesome. There didn't used to be, we've been doing this for 20 some odd years, but there didn't used to be anything like this where you can, could have questions answered. YouTube's a great guide to help, to help. I've got videos, on our wave riding school, YouTube that can be super helpful. But if one thing is off that you're not seeing, it's such a simple fix. So that's what I always tell people. People expect me to talk them into doing this like very often, and which we do all the time, and I'm all for. But one time makes a pretty big difference is my input to people coming into the area that want to try this. So and it, like you said, it's an awesome area. Whether you're into surfing, people come here for the beach, like for whether it's the lifestyle, whether it's like what that beach or the bay, or it's a really cool area to live, and there's a lot going on here. You've got, like I mentioned, golf. Like there's tons of cool golf courses. There's something for for everyone in the area. So yeah, definitely an awesome place to live and grow up. So
yeah, it is, and that's why I never left.
Yeah, no, a lot of people do the same thing. Yeah. Yep.
But I will say, with like the thing that when my wife and I were talking a couple weeks ago about getting our youngest Harper out on a surfboard. Yes, I've done it for years. I've got plenty of surfboards that we could get her out on, but I know that's out of my lane, to teach it. I can go out and kind of fumble around, myself, but I can't teach it. And I have to think that, by going to you and at being out with one of your instructors, the success rate is so fast. They're getting up on the board. They're feeling some success. They're getting the confidence, which then makes them want to continue to do it. That first year I did it, I mean, I don't know if you know this or if I ever told you the story, but Travis Martin, in town, used to own Sundancer Surf Shop. And I moved to the beach and went down to the Sundancer, and I'm like, I want to buy a board. And I bought a board, and I'm like, well, I don't really know what to do with it. So he took me out to the pier one morning and gave me a few tips, and that was it. But it took me the rest of the summer to try to figure it out, right? And then I broke the board.
So building confidence is huge, and similar. I've got a lot of friends that surf, including Travis, that like sends
his kids all go to you, right?
Yeah, his kids come out in the water with his kid. Like his kids are great, little surfers, and a lot of times, it happens all the time where friends of mine that surf well. If they tell their kid do this, they don't listen. Right. If I tell them the same thing, it works. I can't tell you how many times we do that. And I've got buddies that like that's the case. I also have friends that surf well that like they want to sit on the beach and watch, or they want to surf themselves and let us take their kids out. And like I said, I'm super grateful and respectful and appreciative of the fact that these guys that if they didn't have like really successful companies like Travis that they're busy doing. Like,
right.
I'd hire them if there was any possible way to do it, and they're trusting their kids with me. So pretty cool. Yeah. But building that confidence is key, and we can, the success rate is pretty crazy. People ask me all the time, like, will I stand up? How long does it take to stand up? And especially with kids, if I scale the board correctly, pretty easy. We had an adult, a family of 4 this morning that went out with us, and the first thing he said is like, what are the chances that I'll stand up? And over the years, we don't really have people that, don't stand up. How long you stay up, like, right, balance. But yeah, we've got it down to a pretty good science to make it pretty easy and fun.
That's great. So, if somebody is coming to Ocean City and either they're going to, be here for a couple days and they want to get their kids involved, or they themselves want to get involved, what's the best way to get in touch with you? Like, how do they do that?
So we do all the registration on the website, which is waveridingschool.com. You can go right on there and register, like, all summer long. We definitely have days that fill up. I mean, our one neat thing about what we do is it fills up with a lot of local families, which I also get a kick out of. Like, a lot of the local community go surfing with us, which is cool, but it also fills it up. So it does fill up in advance, but we also get last minute cancellations all the time. So I think on the website it says, like, if the date's not available, send us a text. So I spend a lot of my time, filling in cancellations here and there. So if you go on and the date's not available, the phone number is right on there. You just send a text and say, have any cancellations tomorrow, and happens all the time. So, but yeah, you can register right on the website. Super simple and super easy. And, yeah, nice and easy.
And what beach are you guys surfing on most of the time?
Typically, we're right at Caicos. Yeah, okay. So the school runs through Caicos Surf Shop on 36th Street. So we've been doing lessons out there for a long time, even before the school was in the form that it is. I want to say before I was technically surfing professionally, like, I did lessons I taught lessons for those, right, those guys, and they handed the school back to me, years ago. So, yeah, kind of full circle.
That's awesome. Yeah. And then the misconception I think that some have too is there a season for this? I mean,
that's a super good question. I definitely have people that ask, like, what's the best time of year? And 2 big misconceptions with getting into the sport. Everyone's like waiting for the waves to be bigger. The smaller the wave, the better this works. The bigger the board, the better this works. Like, there's a few, like, definitive, things that I'll argue till I'm blue in the face, but we could have the best day in the world in, like, July, when people think it's, historically, like, not as good. Not as good meaning it's smaller. That's better for starting out, in all honesty. But it comes down to the day more than it is the time of year. Like, historically, hurricane season, you're going to have potentially bigger, better waves in the winter. Sometimes we have some bigger, better waves, but we could have the smallest day in the world in the middle of the winter, and we could have the biggest day of the year, in July with the right storm that comes through. So, so that's a good bit of what I do, is try and, target the right times and days based on tides that are, months out. That's what I do. I use a friend of mine has a website called Surf Captain that forecasts, and you kind of become an amateur meteorologist with surfing, right? So, and I've spent a long time doing that, and now I'm trying to forecast the best. I've gotten good at forecasting the best times for people getting into this a little bit. When the waves are real good, I'll call my buddy that owns Surf Captain and figure out the best time for me. But I think I'm even better at figuring out, water depth for getting into it, for the instructors and kids and even adults that are getting into the sport, to make the couple things that we need to do easy. So, yeah.
Pretty awesome.
Kind of funny how it works. Yep.
Well, I know you've got another surf lesson here in a little bit, and I appreciate you taking time out of your day, to share with us and our clients here. I like I said, I have so many clients that say that they know you, and they've been down there either themselves or their kids, for cool surf lessons. And so keep it up, man.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Doing fantastic. We appreciate it.
I'm going to keep enjoying myself as long as I can.
So one last time, the website again?
waveridingschool.com.
waveridingschool.com.
And everything, all the Instagram, it's all Wave Riding School. So,
okay.
Yep.
We'll link it up on here, and appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Anytime.
All right, we'll have to do it again.
All right. Thanks for having me.
All right, thanks. Thanks again for tuning in to the Running Real Estate Podcast. If you like this information, please share it with a friend, and we'll see you next week with another edition. Thank you.